Crash outs happen all the time, and they mostly happen because of our anxieties and fears and all the negative states that we could be in when we're overwhelmed about our current situation or about something in particular. That being said, let's hang out together and let's chat for a little bit about how I crashed out and basically ended up deciding on how I'm going to go from here because of it. I recommend you grab a drink or maybe even a snack just so you have something to nibble on while we're talking. Welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Anne. I'm an aspiring indie author writing under the pen name Annalise Carrington, and my current work in progress is an Achillean speculative romance with dark themes. So, anyways, let's talk about crashing out. Well, more specifically, my own crash out and what resulted in that. I have my water here because I don't have anywhere to put my coffee. We don't have a coffee table here, so it is what it is for right now. And I have my little pupper here beside me. I don't think you can see him in the camera, but he decided to hang out with me while I'm filming. So let's get on with it, I guess. So, my crash out. I crashed out about 2 weeks ago. It was after my 6-hour write-a-thon that I failed. If you've seen that, you've heard, well, you've seen in the outro that it did happen because I had to refilm the outro on that vlog today because the file, not the actual file, but the clip didn't look good, and I didn't realize it at the time because I was filming on my rear camera. Anyways, so I mentioned that I was in so much pain after that vlog, and then my monthly visit came the day after the vlog, and I think with how my body had been affected with more than just the vlog, but everything that happened that day, or maybe even what had happened before I did the vlog, and mix that in with my hormones and the effects of being a woman. My mental health took a hit. My imposter syndrome started talking shit to me. And for the most part, like I said earlier during the intro, crash outs, spiraling, those happen because of our anxiety or because we're feeling some sort of overwhelm with what's happening. And for me, I think it's the pressure that I personally put on myself. I don't have anyone else to blame for this. It's all me. I did it all to myself. So, my imposter syndrome started making me believe a bunch of negative things that might be true. Actually, like for the first time in a long while, my imposter syndrome made me realize that I was doing something wrong. That's actually true, and not just feeding on my own insecurities and such. Even though there's still that aspect of that, I was insecure of my writing experience. There's a bunch of times that I wish I've done more writing years ago when I was younger. I wish that I've started at least learning about the craft years ago, even if I hadn't shared any of my writing. I wish that I've started sooner, but my life, where I was at in my life years ago, just it wasn't the right time for me, and it's taking me long in the process of accepting that I had been in a different season of my life then, and it doesn't include writing in it. I've always wanted to be an author. I've always loved writing, but because of all the things that that had happened since I was a kid, I've stepped away from it. I've totally believed that it wasn't for me, that I didn't have the skill, or I didn't have the capability to learn the skill of being a writer. So I let go. And then it took me years, decades actually, to get back into it again, and started believing that maybe what I had been believing all along had been a lie. So, that being said, and knowing those facts, still didn't change the feeling that I wish I had done more, you know, during those times. And right now, I wish I had more experience, but I don't. And the ultimate goal for me with my writing is to become a published author, mostly indie published. At least at the beginning of my career, I want to start my career as an indie author. And so, when I started getting serious about my writing and my work and my books, I've decided, well, I put a deadline on myself and said that 2026 is going to be my publishing year, which had put pressure on myself. I thought it was gonna be okay at the beginning of the year, but I've now realized that it's not. It's not okay. I'm not ready. So, aside from the fact that my writing experience isn't long, it's very limited, there's also another aspect into the consideration of why the pressure of publishing by next year had been the wrong call on my part. Let's talk about that aspect. And for us to talk about that, I have to talk about our move from the US to here in Japan last year. So we're a military family, and we moved here because of my husband's military orders. Now, moving as it is for everyone is already stressful and anxiety inducing. Moving from one country to a different one basically doubles that stress and anxiety regarding the move. Now, add in the aspect that a lot of the things about our move is basically out of our control. We have paperwork that we needed to get done on a specific time frame. Like, we cannot do them ahead of time. It has to be done in a specific time frame. And we have deadlines for that. And there's a lot of things that are like that, paperwork wise, requirement wise. And outside of that, everything's out of our control. So that added into the stress of the situation and the move. And I had this plan to write in between the cracks of my time that I needed to give into the move preparation, and even during the actual move, because we've stayed in hotels for weeks, and I could have done some writing then, but it was only like last week when I realized that I'm not the kind of person that can focus on my writing. I cannot be creative when I'm feeling insecure about life. And it's more than just financial security, it's housing security and a bunch of things, flights, hotel stays, places where our dog can stay that he's not allowed to, and then we have to pivot and think of something else, flights not having space for our dog, or things like that. And that happened last year, but I thought I was just, being me, being lazy, just not wanting to do the work. And I just thought that I didn't have the mental strength to push through the suck, basically. But it was only last week, like I said earlier, that I realized that I wasn't alone, that it wasn't just me who couldn't be creative when there's any sort of insecurity in my life. It doesn't have to be mental insecurity. It's just if a lot of thing is stressing me out, basically, I cannot be creative. And that being said, we're only going to be here until 2027. At this point in time, we only have until 2027 to stay, and my husband's going to retire. And retiring at the same time moving overseas again to get back to the States after his orders are done pose another level of requirements that needs to get done of a different time frame when they needed to get done. And we already have the stuff going on as an overseas move, and then it gets added on because of his retirement. Now he's retiring 2027. If I actually publish in 2026, and by the time I publish, I was hoping that I at least have the second book written and going through the line editing process, and also the third book's first draft done. That's what I'm hoping. But even right now, spoiler alert, at this point right now, it's not gonna happen. But we're gonna push that aside for the time being, and let's go back to the timeline, and has everything to do with something outside of the reasons that's got everything that got let's go back to the reasons that got nothing to do with my writing for the time being. There. So, just taking into account that I'm gonna publish in 2026, and then we're moving again in 2027, including all the preparation for that, there's a very big chance that I won't be able to write at all in 2027. Maybe now that I know that this is how I am, there are a few things that I can do to mitigate that fact about myself. But I don't know yet, because I'm not there yet. That's 2 years from now, and I don't know where I'm gonna be mental health wise. So if that were to happen, wherein I couldn't write it in the entire year 2027, that meant basically that my career is gonna get screwed up from the beginning. If I can't even last a year of my publishing career without having that problem to face, or not being able to handle a problem like that, how is my publishing career gonna go from there? And I'm so type A, and I try to make plans and things, and make sure that I'm organized enough in my goals, that plans and goals actually, in that I know the steps to take to get, for the most part, where I wanted to be. They don't always work out. Yes, I get that. I got a bunch of failures, as you guys have seen if you've been in my channel long enough. And if you're not, you can go back to the old vlogs and old videos that I've posted. Anyway, so I know the steps that I need to take for my publishing plan. I have a publishing plan. That's why I know that before I publish the first book, I want at least the third book's first draft already written at that point. And that's part of my publishing plan. And if I don't write at all in 2027 because of the move, then my plan crashes out horrendously. And if at this point in time I already know that's a very big possibility, the pressure of having to finish multiple books with the time I have now is already pressuring enough, stressful enough, and then adding the possibility that it's all gonna crash down around me anyways less than a year later, it's not healthy. I think it's nice to have great big goals, but it's like you're signing yourself up for failure if you know all those big obstacles is gonna come in your way, and you're just gonna go ahead and bulldoze through it anyways without a plan or anything. And at this point, I don't have a plan of action or anything regarding that obstacle that could be in my way. What I have is another reason why I think that publishing next year isn't the smartest decision and smartest goal for me right now. It's because, like I've said earlier, I'm new to writing. I have a lot of things that I still need to learn. I still haven't finished a book from the first draft all the way to, getting feedback from it for it. I still haven't gone through that entire process myself, so I don't know how my process works from start all the way to finish as it is. So all this realization happened during that same week where I crash out. I'm in the middle of very painful cramps, as well as being tired and being lazy and without motivation, and the imposter syndrome jump in on it. And that week was crazy. But at the end of it, on the other side of it, that experience had made me realize basically that I need to stop referring to 2026 as my publishing debut year, and I need to stop referring to my current work in progress as my hopefully debut book. I still feel that way. Hopefully, it's still my debut, but without saying it out loud and in public and calling it like that, I take away the stress and the pressure that I'm putting on this particular book. I think I just need to enjoy the process and learn my own writing process along the way without putting labels on the future plans that I would be having in each book for each book. So, now we're gonna start referring to my current work in progress as Project L and M because of Lachlan and Marcus. So yeah, I think that's all I've got to say about that. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else that you guys need me to expand upon? Maybe drop those in the comments. Like I said earlier, crash outs happen a lot of the time to a lot of people, and for the most part it's different for each person, right? The effects, the things that we all go through during the time, even each spiraling moment situation for us are different each time. It just so happened that this time I got lucky because I don't know how I managed to get lucky. I don't know how I managed to get to this point within that whole expanse of a week. It's definitely a short crash out, but they all just happened at the same time and I got hit in all directions at the same time. But I think another thing that helped me get to this realization and this plan is also fear. I'm not gonna deny that. The fear of failing is also something that I'm learning to accept and to actually embrace, because failure is subjective, and in failing, we learn a lot of things. Like I've said it multiple times in my other vlogs, I failed a few challenges, a few experiments, and yet at the end of it, I still learned something about myself. Now, there are things that are more scary than just failing a writing challenge, especially when it comes to publishing, because now that's something legal, that's a business, and businesses cost money, and there are things that I don't want to mess up when it comes to money. I'm very, 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 very cautious when it comes to money. And I guess that also pushed me faster. That that pushed me faster into accepting that, yeah, publishing next year in 2026 is it's a stupid that was a stupid goal. When I made that plan, it was at the start of this year, and at the start of this year is the first, well, it's not the first time, but it's, well, yeah, it's actually the first time that I started drafting the second draft of this book. And it took me almost 11 months, almost a year actually, because I finished the first draft November of 2023 during NaNoWriMo, and then I tried to work on it after a month of not touching it because we're supposed to let it sit. But because of how it was, how crazy that, well, how messy that first draft was, I didn't know how to fix the things that I know was wrong with it. So it took me that long with my brain working in the background until I get the idea, and then I started brainstorming on the ideas for the second draft. But still, there are a lot of things that I didn't know about the book. That's why there's no outline. I have seen ideas, yes. I don't have an outline still. Both times, first draft and second draft, I didn't have an outline. And I made a few decisions on the book that resulted in me now hopefully being able to make an outline before I actually start the third draft. Hopefully, we'll see. But that's the plan, that's the hope. So, yeah, making the decision to publish without knowing how everything works, at least the writing process for me worked in the first place, wasn't the smartest thing that I've done. So yes, even though this realization was brought to me by all the negative feelings and the insecurities and the doubts that I had, it also came from probably my subconscious letting me know that I'm moving towards something that I wasn't prepared for. So it is now a pivot. I don't know when I'm going to publish. I'm not putting any years on myself anymore. I'm also not gonna promise that the book I'm working on right now, the series that I'm working on right now, will be my debut. I'm taking those pressure out of these books. So maybe right now I'm working on making a revision plan for my current project LNM, and maybe after that I'm gonna pivot into a different story. Maybe not. We'll see when we get there. But now the pressure is off. I'm just going to enjoy discovering my process. So when I'm actually ready to tackle it, I can figure out an actual publishing plan that's more stronger and more, that I feel more confident in, let's say. So this is where I leave you guys. Thank you for hanging out with me. Yeah, I know, this is just a little sit down video. If you've made it this far, please leave down that what's that emoji? This emoji. I'm gonna put it somewhere in the screen. Is it the boom emoji? Is it the explosive emoji? Yeah, I leave that in the screen. Please leave this emoji down in the comments. And if you have some questions, and if you want to commiserate about, writing and publishing and being a new writer and learning a bunch of things, let's talk down there in the comments. And I hope you like this video. And if you do, please hit the like button. And if you're liking my content so far, or if you want to continue following me in this journey, please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to ring that bell so you can get notified every time I post a new video. Again, thanks for being here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye!